This next cut you're about to see is completely unedited. It is just my lament on my birthday and why that canoe is not in the water. So watch it at your own peril. All right, so the canoe is still under work. It's my birthday, and so some folks have asked what happened and why is it not in the water. Well, it turns out there's a number of things that have happened. So I simply didn't understand the complexity of some of the tasks. For example, cane and how to re-cane or how to re-wicker the seat. So that has become an issue in and of itself. Getting the old cane out has been an issue, and finally I learned after I almost messed up the seat that vinegar will dissolve the glue that's in there holding in the cane, and I simply didn't know that. So now I learn, now I know that, and certainly I know that for the future. So another one was I didn't understand the complexities of varnish. For example, I sanded it down so perfectly, and one afternoon I decided to do the varnish on the top side. And the next morning, it was the late part of the afternoon, and the next morning I covered it up and everything. And the next morning I go out to look at my fine creation, and it's white. My beautiful boat with beautiful woodwork was white, and it's where it's supposed to be clear. And what had happened was the moisture in the air from the night had actually made the entire areas that I had varnished white. So you cannot varnish when it's really damp, and certainly not when it's raining. But even when it's really damp, you just cannot varnish. So that cost me a couple of days to learn that. So, another thing about varnish is how to apply varnish. And one of my problems with applying varnish was paintbrushes. So I bought nice paintbrushes to put on the varnish, and it turned out that they require a lot of cleanup. So it winds up that there's two things that I've done to rectify this. One is now I don't clean the paintbrushes. When I do apply with paintbrushes, I don't clean them. What I do is I soak them, and I just leave them until the next time. So I actually have, let me just show you. I have a bucket that has, well, you can't show you, but it's just filled with paint thinner, and I put my brushes inside it, so that way they're ready for the next time. They're not all hard. So I went through a couple of them, and I thought that I cleaned them adequately, and they weren't cleaned adequately, and they turned into a rock. So that cost me some time. And another thing about varnish I found out for small parts. Let me show you another thing. So these little pieces here, it's hard to see. Oh yeah, there we go. So these little pieces here, these are the spacers for the seats, and also the seats. I wound up now using. Oh yeah, they're outgassed properly. I don't smell the varnish anymore. So what happens with these is I wound up painting them with a rag, and I'll talk about the technique of that a little later on another video. But that's another thing I learned. Use a rag. I mean, it actually, if you thin out the varnish, it actually works out pretty well. I was actually really impressed. Now I haven't done that for large areas of the underside of the boat, which I can't see right now. Oh yeah, there we go. So I haven't done that for large areas of the boat. I've been still using I've still been using the brushes, but it's certainly a consideration, and one that I would not shed lightly, because it works. So another thing that's affected me is supply. This is interesting. I have actually had a little bit of a problem finding the supplies I need. For example, I thought that I was going to be able to get some marine primer. Just go down to the store, to Lowe's or to Home Depot. It says it's in stock. Turns out that I guess everybody is working on their boats, and I've had some problems. So now I have to order it from Amazon. It's going to take a couple of more days. And I had a couple of things like that. Even understanding like what kind of varnish to buy. As it turned out that I didn't know supplies. I wound up, the only thing I knew about was, for example, here's a good example. Here's a good example. I had some clear semi-gloss. Well, I tried it. I tried to clear semi-gloss on a seat. I tried clear semi-gloss on a seat, on this seat. I don't know if you can see it, but once I put it on, I just really wasn't happy with it. I'm like, gosh, I've got to have this beautiful boat, and it's just kind of not really shiny. I thought that, originally I thought, I'll use the semi-gloss because that way, I don't know, the sun won't reflect in my eyes as I'm paddling. I'll freaking wear sunglasses because you want your boat to be sexy. And shiny is sexy, a polished car, and polished boat. So just a consideration. So it's a couple of supply things that I had to learn about. So another thing that has negatively affected my time on target here is understanding the damage that has been on the boat. For example, like I could see most of it, and I could have made it and just, discarded it. But for example, the seats. For example, the seats. These areas up in here, they were so badly, I didn't even get all of it out. But they were so badly molded. Oh, that's so nice and shiny. Still gonna sand it down and do one more coat too. It's gonna be really beautiful. They were just badly molded, and it took a long time for me to get through it all. It just took longer than I expected. Now, was this strictly required to put the boat in the water? Absolutely not. I could have dumped the boat in the water and been on my merry way and had the boat in the water for my birthday. But I'm not going to have to do this for 5 more years. Spend a little bit of time and make it sexy. Do it right. Another piece of the damage that I didn't really understand is the epoxy soft spots. So it's hard to see. It's hard to see. Oh, here we go. So this area is an area where the epoxy, the paint has rubbed off, and it created a bad soft spot. So I needed to learn what to do. Like I thought there for a while I was going to use more epoxy and put more epoxy on, but then I read and I kind of came to understand that epoxy by itself is not going to solve my problem. So that area, you know, I've had to sand down areas of the boat that and figure out a different hardening technique. And the hardening technique I'm gonna wind up with is to put some spar varnish, you know, sand it down to solid, and then put spar varnish on it, let it dry, and then prime it and paint it. So it's just certain things that, you know, didn't really understand. Could it go in the water? Absolutely. But you know, I'm not going to have to do this for 5 more years or more. This is not the time to chintz on something just because somebody's trying to force you into, you know, dumping the boat in the water. And yeah, I wanted it too, but fact is shit happens. So the number one problem I have is procrastination. Other things come up, like even right now, you know, there's a TV show that I'd really like to be watching, and I'm not, because I'm out here making this video because I'm trying to force myself to be more diligent. So yeah, procrastination is a real killer for me. So what could I have done to alleviate the procrastination? Well, one of the things is if I'd had a coach, somebody that was keeping me awake and keeping me on my toes, or if I had a partner who was equally enthusiastic about not just putting the boat in the water, but making the boat right, that would have really helped me, because I would have been able to have somebody, you know, over my house at 5 o'clock every day, you know, after work, not because they wanted to, you know, put the boat in the water, but because they wanted to see the boat beautiful. And that would have really helped. It would have helped me anyway. That, you know, I need to consider this about myself, but it would have helped me that had I had somebody else that was equally enthusiastic about the repairs on the boat, fixing up the boat, and consider every day a success, every day closer to fulfillment. Not that the fulfillment is to put it in the water. Not that the fulfillment is to put it in the water, but that the fulfillment is every day of work is a success. And the beauty of putting your hands to something that you see becoming more and more beautiful. It's like the rose garden, or any garden. You know, it's not the fulfillment of eating a tomato out of your own garden, although that is beautiful. It's the beauty of seeing that first sprout and seeing something grow. Gosh, makes me kind of wish I had kids. But anyway, enough lament, back to sanding.